I started in Halliburton in 1950 to learn the station work and the telegraph, and I classed and passed out in 1952 on the railroad. And I worked on the Belleville Division, which covered from all the way from Brockville to Oakville and up to Midland, Orillia, over to Bancroft, Halliburton, over to Ottawa, back down around to Belleville, and over to Scarborough. So it was quite a territory. I worked in the station here in Lindsay for a good many days. In fact, I held the day job, which started at 4 o'clock in the morning and worked till noon. So I'd be getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work, which wasn't very pleasant, but it'd give you a nice long afternoon and evening off. And we had a lad that came in at noon, and he worked till 8 o'clock at night. And we called him a Bear Trap Martin. Little story behind that too. But we were quite busy in the office in Lindsay because we had the dispatchers were upstairs for dispatching the trains, and we copied all the train orders and did all the clearances, and ended up eventually that they'd cut back in the yard office and so on. So we had to call crews then too, and there was half the time you couldn't find the guys at home, so you'd head out and go down to the hotels and pick up a train crew to take a train out of town. I was a telegrapher. We did Morse code, dots and dashes. Yeah, it's just like talking to you. Yeah, it's quite nice. In fact, we had a show in Bancroft, railroad days. Some of the lads had set up a telegraph system, and they had a few stories on the telegraph, the old style, I walked into Bancroft Station after 40 years of being away, and I could read it just like talking to you. Yeah, I still know it. I still pound away. I started out in Halliburton in 1950. Yeah. No, it was the station agent, and he would practice with us, and you just pick it up. It came naturally to me. Anybody that has good rhythm or likes music and that, it comes easy. It comes easy. Well, yes, it was an old-time station. I couldn't tell you what year it was built, but upstairs we had a dispatch office, and they dispatched all the trains out of Lindsay and District, And then there was the main office was in Belleville. That was the main dispatch office. And our train dispatcher in chief train dispatcher in Belleville was Lionel J. Train, which was quite a name, yeah. But we had a crew here in Lindsay. Who were they now? Pete Cavanaugh, Cyril Chase. Isn't that awful, I sort of forget. It was a two-story wood structure. And on one end we had the men's waiting room, and the other end we had the women's waiting room. We had an old coal oil lamp in each corner. I guess that one day they lit the coal oil lamps, That's the only lighting they had then, back quite a ways, I guess. But yeah, there was separate rooms for the men and the women, But well, it was an old station, though. It was pretty rough shape, but I couldn't tell you what year that they took the dispatchers out, because when the train started, passenger trains, they cut them off. We had 2 passenger trains a day going to Toronto and back, and they cut them out, so then they started cutting the crews out and so on. But I enjoyed the telegraph work, It just depends. You had all kinds of telegrams going here and going there and all over. And sometimes it'd be a court case, and you'd have the reporters come in and give your newspaper report, And we used to send that. We'd sit there for hours pounding that out on the telegraph, and we'd send it to Associated Press in Toronto. And the lady that took all that in at night, she was Edith Driscoll. And she'd never stop. She'd just, you'd say DN, which would break the telegraph, that you had to go to the washroom or go check a train going by or something, you'd come back and start pounding again. ED would still be there. And my signature on the telegraph was MO. MO for Moss, I guess. An easy one to type out, pound out. Everybody had used two initials, eh? Mm-hmm. Dispatcher'd call up and say, Moss, take a 31. Well, the 31 order is stop all trains. 31, you had to sign your signature. You were responsible. No train ever left your depot. So you were responsible for that. And then the dispatcher would say copy 5 or copy 3. It depends on what crews he had. Eh? If he had a double-header train, he'd have copy 5. And there'd be a copy of an order for me, a copy for the conductor, and a copy for the head engineer. So we had to write out the train order. The dispatcher told us to write out, hey, extra engine so-and-so, run extra, like engine 2616 run extra from, say, Lindsay to Aurelia, with right over all eastward trains and so on. Eh? That was the way the train order was written out. The dispatcher would initially order HEY or so on, whoever the dispatcher was. And we would make the train order out, and we'd have to clear it with the train order relating to that part of the train or the track where they were traveling. Yeah. One day there was a double header. They were trying to put a time run on a train to get it run from Belleville to Midland. They were moving the grain out of the Midland elevators, eh? And they hauled it down to Montreal and shipped it out. But they put a time run on. They wanted to see how fast 200 cars would get from Belleville to Midland. But they had to stop in Lindsay and change the train crews, eh? It was a double-header engine, 2 engines on it. Bob Michael was on one engine, and Rocket Rowell, he was on the head engine. And 200 cars behind them. They started out east of Lindsay, eh? Beautiful sight, October, when they were doing the run. And they come up through town, eh? 2 engines puffing away, eh? Geez, a pretty sight. But anyway, they got outside of Lornville, about 2 miles other side of Lornville, and Rocket Rowell was a fast runner, eh? Now, whether they blamed him or not, I don't think they could. But anyway, they dumped 23 cars. Broken wheel or something, eh? And upset the, stopped the train anyway. So the speed run was stopped. Yeah. So, I don't know what else I could tell you around Lindsay. It was, you know, just normal work, and clearing trains, getting train crews ready, and, you know, lining up cars. But they kept cutting out jobs, and that dumped more on us, eh, because we were in the ticket office and in the dispatch office, eh. So it was pretty good work. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I didn't know that I wouldn't have a job when 1965 rolled around, but there was hundreds of people out of work by then, because they closed everything up. All the main line, or all the branch lines, and all the stations were closed up. Train crews were gone, and then on the main lines they cut them back to 2, a conductor and an engineer. So that was a change in 1965. Yeah, and during the war there was a lot of messages coming. I remember I was at Woodville working in the station there, and one of the farmers there in Woodville, they'd raised prize horses. He'd went over to Germany and had bought 4 or 5 nice, beautiful horses, I guess. Had them coming up the St. Lawrence River, heading up, and they hit another freighter and killed 3 horses and killed the owner that was with them, And I got a telegram from the outfit that was the transportation company. That was the boat line, Mm-hmm. And it was Canada Steamship Lines, who it was really. And they sent a telegram to Woodville to advise his wife that he'd been killed, along with the 3 horses. I thought that was pretty low, that outfit, Canada Steamship Lines, to do that. So I wrote a little note to them after, you know, why didn't they send a representative to tell his wife, you know, instead of sending a telegram to me in Woodville? So I had to find out where his wife lived, where the farm was. Of course, I didn't know where it was. So I got a hold of the guy that carried the mail there, and he told me who the lady was that lived next door to the farmer, eh? And so I got a hold of her, and I told her I had a telegram. So I took it out and delivered it to her, and she went over with me to the house there where the lady was that had just lost her husband. But I didn't think that was very nice of Canada Steamship Lines not to send the representative, you know. Well, you had to pass so many words a minute in the Morse code. So many words a minute. Yeah. I know my first message, I was working McMillan Yard. That's just outside of Midland, eh? I stayed at Wabasheen and I had to walk over to McMillan Yard, which was about 3 miles away, eh? And my first message was from Belleville, Chief Train Dispatcher in Belleville, Operator Billings, report to Coldwater on Monday morning, October the 31st or whatever it was, to relieve the station agent for 2 weeks or whatever, eh? But that's the way we got our message, and that was my first message on the telegraph. I didn't have to stop the guy that was sending it either. Lindsay, we didn't have that many passengers on the trains then, eh? That was 1952 to 1965, so it was pretty quiet. It was all automobile going then, eh? But prior to that, it was quite busy. Of course, we've run a train. There was a special every Friday night left Toronto. They called it the Holy City. It left Toronto, drove to Lindsay, and then Lindsay to Halliburton. It took the people up on a Friday night, eh? All the cottagers. And they called it the Holy City. It was, too. And it went back Sunday night. Everybody crowded back on Sunday night and back to Toronto. It was quite a trip. It was quite a trip.
Why did they call it the Holy City?
Well, there was a lot going on, let me tell you. We had a superintendent here. He got on in Halliburton, or got on in Lindsay here, and I don't think he knew where Halliburton was when he got there. He's quite a boy. Oh yeah, there was quite a crowd here in Lindsay. Well, there was 3 dispatchers, 2 relief dispatchers, and a chief dispatcher. That was just upstairs. There was 2 of us downstairs in the ticket office, and there was a car service clerk. There was roadmaster. There was, everybody. A lot of people. Pretty hard to remember because I've been away from there for so long time, eh? 45 years, I guess. Oh, there was quite a bit of steam, yeah. I don't know what year the steam went out, but there was a lot of steamer on then. We had a yard engine that ran around Lindsay here, switching cars around the town, eh? Because it was quite busy here. And a little small yard engine, eh? But there was crews going out to Halliburton, there was crews going out to Bancroft, there was crews going out to Kirkfield, Cobacog, crews going over to Midland, crews going to Belleville. It was quite busy, yeah. Well, I tell you, when he'd come in from Toronto, the passenger train with the steam engine, that engine would sit there and pant like it had one hell of a good run, which it did too. But it would just pant. You just swear somebody was panting. But it was quite loud, eh? Steam. But then when they'd start up, it was very quiet when they'd start up, eh? So it was fired with coal. Now, a lot of the old steam engines were Mikados, eh? And the fireman, he had to get into the tender and scoop up a shovel full of coal and open the firebox door with a trip, eh? Step on the thing, pedal, and the doors would fly open, butterfly doors, they fly open. He'd scoop in a shovel full of coal. Kept that up till the hopper was empty. Usually they'd run a hopper from Midland to Lindsay or the other way too. Took a hopper coal. Well, we had to do the call boy work, which is to call train crews, and we had an order board on the wall there. When a train crew would come in, you'd have to put their names up on the board and what position they come in. And if you made a mistake and you didn't get a guy moved out on the next trip, you were responsible for paying that guy's wages if he missed a call. So you made darn sure that you you had it right. Yeah. Well, there was nothing there. It was just fields here. And the trains run up through here out to Lornville and on over to Revilla in Midland. Or else they switched over south and went down through Blackwater and into Toronto. Because Adelaide Street and Angeline Street was farms on both sides, eh? The old roundhouse was there. No, that was long before my time. But the station was just a little further on down by William Street, the end of William Street, on Durham. That's where the old station was. Being inside out of the cold, because I started out to be a carpenter. And I worked 2 or 3 years at being a carpenter. But the old carpenter I worked for, he saved all the winter work for him being inside, eh? So the rest of the time you'd work all summer, you'd work 6, 7 days a week. And in the fall you'd be laid off, there was nothing doing, eh? So I thought, I'm going to find a job where I'm inside. So there was a chance over in Halliburton. So I went over to see the old agent there. Oh yeah, come on in. So that's how I got started. But it was all a free pass, eh? But I had to pay for my bedrooms and paid for our meals and that, eh? The meals were excellent though on the coaches, or in the dining cars. Well, I think Oshawa would be one of the hot spots. It was busy, busy, busy. And right at about around 5 o'clock, 5:30 at night, you'd have the Montreal train coming in, heading to Montreal. You had the other train coming the other way, and they both came close to, meeting at the same time. But you'd get on the speaker and call the train crew to hold back, number 5's at the station, hold back. So, okay, they'd hold the train back, eh, till you got all the passengers on and they got away. But it was a hectic job. But another busy job was Scarborough. Because Scarborough, you had the Lindsay division, eh? And then you had the main line. And you worked with the Toronto traffic supervisors. You worked with the Lindsay dispatchers. And you also worked with the Belleville dispatchers, which was quite busy. And you had the pilot engines because the trains used to leave from Mimico, travel up by the Union Station in Toronto, and they get up to the Danforth, and there's quite a hill to get up through Scarborough. So they brought in these big mountain engines, which were 4200s, eh? And they had 4 wheels at the very front, and then the steam cylinders that drove the 4 wheels on both sides there. And behind that you had 2 more steam cylinders, which drove 4 more wheels behind that. So they were a monster of an engine, eh? But they would sit down at Danforth until the freighter got by, and then they'd scoot out behind the freighter and start pushing them up over the hill. And somebody would pull the pin when they got to the top of the hill. Away they'd go. Back they'd come down through the siding and stay in front of the station, eh? Until I would give them a switch to go out and go back down to Danforth again, eh? But you got your orders from the Toronto traffic supervisor, which was a hectic job down there. But when you had them going to the Belleville division, you held them in at the far end of the track, and when let them back into the siding at the top end of the hill. It was quite a job, quite a job. Very busy. Yes, yes, yeah. I hate to see it go, but you know, it was an old way of communicating, and it served its purpose for years. So, yes, I hate to see it go. The business wasn't there. The transports came in and took all the business away from us, and there wasn't much left, except the odd, carloads and so on. I worked part-time at Lakeways Esso service station just south of number 7 here on 35. I worked part-time there because I knew the owner and that. So a lad from Uniroyal used to stop in there and get his gas on the way out on Friday nights, and I got to know him, and Frank Hill. So I was asking him of any jobs out there. Well, he said, "Where are you working?" I told him on the railroad. Well, he said, "You got a job." He said, "I won't hire if you're working." So one Friday night he came in for gas, and I said, "Well, my job has ended, so I haven't got a job. Come in and see me Monday morning." So I went in Monday morning. I got a job at Uniroyal and worked there for 28 years.
What did you do at Uniroyal?
Pretty well the same work as I did on the railroad, handling freight and express and all that kind of stuff. But then I started looking at doing they wanted me to look after mechanical parts stores, so I set that up, and along with shipping and receiving and mechanical parts stores, I was quite busy. But then they kept cutting out jobs, and a lot of the jobs was dumped onto me at the back, and I ended up doing a lot of the ordering for a lot of the goods. So I was quite busy at Uniroyal, which I enjoyed. Yeah, I worked there for, I think it was 28 years. Till they closed. Well, I retired 2 years before they closed. And I can't believe the change in this town. I can't believe it. Just hard to believe. Well, it's growing and expanded, and all the services now, like I say, we don't get out much anymore, but when my kids come or her kids come, we go for a little drive around the town, It's just hard to believe the size of it. But we like Lindsay. We've always liked Lindsay. Especially the Lindsay Fair when it is on, But we haven't been there for a few years, so.
Never used to miss them.
Yes, I enjoy this place here. I enjoy Adelaide Place. It's well looked after. It's a beautiful building, and they maintain it well. And there's all kinds of activities down there. You don't have to sit in your room and, twiddle your thumb or watch the television. You can go down there, you go bowling, you can go down and you can go, all kinds of things going on, which is good. And there's a lot of entertainment. They have a lot of good entertainment. And the meals, yeah, we enjoy the meals, put on a little bit of weight, which we don't need. But we do, we like this place. And now they're going to build another big extension on the other end right here, Or a new building, I guess it is. It's a new setup. It's going to be a resident apartments, I think.
Yeah, apartment type living.
Yeah.